Maybe you could tell us very quickly what some of the differences, if any, are between kosher and halal when you're looking at those two different traditions.
Right. They both have overlaps and differences. Both of them have a range of allowed animals and a range of prohibited animals. The kosher is more restrictive than the halal. The halal allows certain animals like an ostrich that would not be allowed in kosher. Rabbit is another example. The big one that both ban is pigs. The pig is banned in Judaism as part of it doesn't meet the descriptors because it was so ancient. It has a split hoof, which is one of the two characteristics, but it's a monogastric. It doesn't chew its cud. It doesn't have a rumen. It is not uniquely singled out. In the Quran, which is the holy book for the Muslims, the pig is considered unacceptable beyond other animals. So it is uniquely prohibited. And so we both prohibit it, but the Muslim tends to more often extend the prohibition on eating it to other activities. So they would not want to use a paintbrush that was made with pork bristles. A Jew would have no problem with that. So again, there are nuances of difference in how the two communities deal with that pork ban. So you have the allowed animals, you have both groups essentially slaughter the same way, and we'll presumably talk a little bit more about that. After the slaughter, the Muslim turns the animal over to the plant and the government. Okay. The rabbis have a collection of post-slaughter requirements, one of which is that inspection of the lungs that we talked about. There is also then a removal of veins and arteries that are filled with blood because, again, both religions see blood as the life fluid. Right. So that there's no equivalent in halal. And then finally, kosher meat is soaked and salted to remove more blood. So those three steps of inspecting the lungs, deveining, and salting and soaking are unique to kosher. Beyond that, because of the passage that appears 3 times in the first 5 books of the Old Testament or Hebrew Scripture, thou shalt not seethe the kid in the milk of its mother. There's a complete separation of milk and meat. And then finally, we add a whole bunch of plant-based rules for the 1 week of Passover, which occurs in March or April each year, where we eat the unleavened bread and celebrate the Exodus from Egypt. On the other hand, the big unique ban in the Muslim world is alcohol, and that is mainly what we call drinking alcohol. It's not what an organic chemist would call alcohol. It's a very specific ethanol, ethyl alcohol. And one would say, okay, well, there's no wine, there's no beer, there's no alcohol in Islam. But remember that alcohol is also used in food processing. Right, okay. And it's, for example, vanilla or almond or maple flavor is an extract, which means it's got to have over 40% alcohol to be called an extract. We also, even when we make other kinds of products, we use alcohol in processing. So that has, in modern times, been in discussion, and that's where you get into technical issues. Well, what happens if you dry it? Can you dry it? And how much residual alcohol does it have to have? What do you do with something like orange juice or vinegar? Fresh orange juice has a tiny bit of alcohol. Vinegar has a very residual amount of alcohol because it's made directly from alcohol. And so you have first the the Muslim, the Quranic issues, or they call their law Sharia, of whether that's an issue because, of course, in modern times we have equipment that detects alcohol at much lower levels than was true when these laws came into being. And so there's actually quite a bit of current discussion on what are the levels of alcohol in ingredients, what are the levels of alcohol in finished product. So those are the kinds of technical issues that I can obviously contribute to and discuss in various forums.
So new technology, new food chemistry raises issues about old prescriptions and prohibitions. That's
Right.
interesting. And real quick, what about crustaceans? Is that the same across the traditions?
The fish I sort of avoided. They're a little trickier.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing them back up. Kosher only allows animals that have fins and removable scales. So any marine animal is basically what we would call a fish, the kind that we normally think of when kids draw a fish. And so all the crustaceans, mollusks, echinoderms, marine mammals are out. The Muslim law, the Quranic verse is that anything that spends its entire life in the water is acceptable. However, with the passage of time and the splitting of the Muslim community into both the Shia and Sunni community, and then the schools within the Sunni community and some of the different groupings within the Shia community, the rules have been varied. So you have, on the one extreme, you have some Shia communities that essentially keep the kosher laws. They only take fish with fins and scales.
Okay.
On the other extreme, you have people who will take things like clams, where there's a debate if the clam's in the water underneath the water level, is that in the water its entire life? So again, you end up actually having to discuss some of the biology and ecology of some of these animals so that, again, an individual religious leader or an individual in the community can make their own decision. And in the Muslim community, the role of the imam is more suggestive, while in the case of Judaism, the opinion of your own rabbi is more definitive. You're expected to follow the rulings of a rabbi, while a Muslim is asked to seek information but is held responsible for the opinion they choose to function with at the day of judgment. So again, there are nuances, differences between the two.